Salut tout le monde! Welcome back to Unintentionally Frenchified. This is a very fun video for me to film, a subject near and dear to my heart. Whether we're talking about vino or cocktails or champagne or beer, I am very inclusive when it comes to my choice of drink. So let's not waste any more time. The subject of the video is very clear. I'm here to give you some of the dirty details on differences in drinking cultures between France and the US, and what really shocked me when I first moved to France. If you're ready, grab a glass. C'est parti! I'm gonna split the video into casual drinking and partying because I have two different objectives when it comes to your choice of alcoholic drink, so I think it's best to put them separately. But before I even jump into that, first I wanted to talk about the choice of drink in the two different cultures. Beer has been an American favorite, the preferred choice of drink for decades. Hello, Bud Light. Well, the French, shocker, prefer globally wine. Wine is actually the second most preferred choice of alcohol in the US, and beer is the second most preferred choice in France. See the little switcheroo? Though beer in France tends to be a lot stronger than beer in the US. I was so surprised the first time that I had a couple of beers in France and I felt a buzz quite quickly and I was like, what's going on? And then I realized that there was more than like 6% alcohol in these beers. Watch out! French beer, or often Belgian beer in France, is very strong. Also, quick interruption to say that one of my favorite weekends that we ever did was renting bikes in Belgium and going and visiting on little beer tours, and you would go and taste beers and you would go to monasteries and you would see them making the beer. So fun. Highly, highly recommend. Back to France and the US. Both countries then come in with spirits as the third most preferred alcohol. Now, I'm gonna generalize here because we do have to for some of these videos. In the US, beer tends to be an alcoholic beverage that both men and women enjoy, even if beer can skew a bit more male sometimes. For the most part, it's pretty shared. When it comes to wine, unless we're talking about a very nice bottle of wine at like a dinner, wine tends to be pretty female. And cocktails are seen as downright girly. Most American guys I know wouldn't touch a sugary girly cocktail. Though a straight glass of liquor like whiskey, yes they would. Now in France, in my experience, there is way less gender coding when it comes to alcoholic beverages. I wonder if this has to do with European men and French men not ever worrying about coming across as too girly or too feminine because they're just so comfortable with themselves, whereas I feel like in the States, American guys tend to have this more macho side that they try to put forward. Discussion for another day, or in the comments if you guys have any thoughts about it. But in any case, in France, seeing guys with cocktails or girls with cocktails is pretty common, along with wine and along with beer. Just yesterday, I was sitting next to a table of 4 girls just having like an after work drink, and they were all sipping on Ricard. So I just feel like the French don't tend to have any codes around who drinks what, and everyone's just kind of drinking whatever they want and doing whatever they feel like. All right, let's talk about casual drinking first. You know, that type of drinking that's like, oh, I'd love a glass of wine with my lunch today, or let's go grab a cocktail or two after work and then go home as just kind of a way to relax. The French are masters when it comes to casual drinking. They know how to appreciate a lot in life, so they're happy to sit down and have a glass of wine and appreciate the taste of it and then be done. They did it for the taste. For example, in my work office, like when I go down to the cafeteria to buy my lunch and they're selling all of the soda products and they're selling waters and whatever you want to drink, they're also selling like tiny bottles of wine for like 1 glass of wine, or tiny bottles of beer so that you can have like a small glass of beer if you want with your lunch. And I remember being so shocked by this when I first came to France. I was so surprised that they would be like openly selling alcohol at the office. It's just not the status quo. It wouldn't be the thing that you'd expect in the US. But casually drinking in France just doesn't have the same type of negative stigma that you have in the US. Because they're taught to appreciate alcohol and the taste is good, then you can just be drinking alcohol because you you like the taste of it. And it's not to be getting drunk, which is why actually, this is fun trivia fact, the French consume more alcohol on a yearly basis than Americans do, because the French are very used to casually drinking on a more regular basis, whereas actually Americans have a way higher level of binge drinking. You can see this mentality of accepting casual drinking and appreciating it and being for it, even in the age of when you can start drinking alcohol in France. In France, the legal age is 18, and in the US, the legal age is 21. So yes, if you abuse the intake of alcohol, there are consequences, and therefore, I think most countries agree that when you start drinking alcohol, you should be an adult when you make those decisions. But an adult is 18, it's not 21, and it's 18 in the US as well. But we don't trust 18-year-olds enough to give them the opportunity to drink alcohol and appreciate it, because we don't think they're drinking it just to appreciate it. In France, it's part of your education is learning to appreciate alcohol. I remember two distinct moments where I was so surprised when I came to France. First time, I went to my first baptism of a little girl who was 6 years old. Very lovely baptism, and we went to the celebratory lunch afterwards, and everybody had a glass of champagne, and we all cheers to her baptism. And then the mom bent down and she let the little 6-year-old girl take like a small sip of her champagne. And I was like, what the F? Like, call child services. What are you doing? She's 6. And I also remember a dinner that I went to. It was with one of my French teachers, and she had 2 kids, and one of them was probably like 15. She let him have a glass of a small, I mean, it was probably a couple sips, but a small glass of wine with his meal. And I remember her, you know, saying to him, so we're pairing this red with this meat because it goes well together, and then you really get the flavor. And she was explaining to him the wine and then letting him try it. It was just so interesting to seeing alcohol put in a position where it's not just to get drunk and act a fool. Yes, that can happen too. But as your parent, it's up to me to also educate you and teach you about the great things in alcohol. And I just feel like the American way is more like putting a lock on your liquor cabinet and never letting your kids take anything from it. It's just a very different way of approaching casual drinking. Now, just because the French have mastered casual drinking a bit better than the Americans does not mean that they don't know how to binge drink and that they don't party. I remember how surprised I was when I first came to France and I realized that Thursday nights were student nights out. Now, I did go out in the US. I'm well aware that there are also things like ladies' night out, singles night out. There are lots of nights out that you can attend when you're in the US as well. But this is like, it's Thursday nights in all of France is student nights out. It's like if at a federal level, somebody organized in the US that like every Saturday night was ladies' night. Like, I didn't expect it to be something that was so like national, and it really is no matter where you go. So keep that in mind if you're a student and traveling. Thursday, reserved for students. They take advantage of it. The French do tend to have apéros before they go out. They tend to eat together, drink together. It's usually mixed, both male, female. Everybody just kind of comes over, and then they head out to the bar together, or they head out to the clubs together. In the US, we also have the pre-bar, pre-going out experience, pre-gaming, anyone as we call it. But in my experience, pre-gaming tended to be more separate genders, because usually girls were getting ready at the same time that they were having some drinks before they went out, and so maybe they'd meet the guys out at the bar. Like, unless there was like a very big like pre-party that was being organized, and in this case there would be drinking games, there would be beer pong, there would be Jenga going on, there would be lots of different ways that you could say bottoms up pretty quickly before you went out to the bars. And most of the time at these American pre-games, there was like no food, because it was like eating's cheating, or there was like some kind of thing that we would say like don't eat because it soaks up all the alcohol. It was very much this idea of like, we're pre-gaming to go hard and then hit the bars. And in France, the apéro isn't necessarily like that. There's definitely food. There's a lot more debating, talking, smoking, chatting than playing games and bottoms up as fast as you can. A bit of a different way at the beginning of the night. In France, it's a bit more like a marathon. They do party hard and they party long. And from my experience, longer than in the US. Like French nights out could easily last until 7 a.m. the next day when the club started to close. Maybe that's why they start out a bit more calmer in their aperos. In the US, I felt like it was kind of pre-game, slam, slam, slam. Go to the bar, slam, slam, slam. Maybe go to a club to dance a bit, slam. But for the most part, I was back home, and so were all the people I knew. More around like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. I was ordering some pizza, I was eating, I was getting in my PJs, and I was falling into bed. In France, it's like, it's 6 a.m., you're leaving the club, the only thing open is a boulangerie that opened at 4 a.m., so you're gonna go and grab a croissant because even the kebab isn't open anymore. That is something that I miss so much about the US, is the amount of options when you've had a night out and you want something to eat and it's 2 a.m. and you're craving something. There's so many things that you can find. And in France, very, very, very small selection, if you can even find anything, depending on where you live. Rough. All right, guys, let me know what you thought. Did you agree with me? Were these culture shocks that you had seen when you arrived, based on whether you're American, whether you're another foreigner in France? Is this kind of how you see France as well? You know, and they're like love and appreciation for alcohol. I just think it's so different for me than what I had growing up, that I still can be surprised by certain things related to alcohol that I see here. So please let me know what you think in the comments below. Looking forward to hearing all of your comments and what you think. I hope you have a fabulous week. À la semaine prochaine. Bisous.